Hi, I'm Blake and welcome to my blog. Today I'm going to be working on a wine bottle terrarium. And to do this, you're going to need a wine bottle. I'm using a screw top just because it makes it a little bit easier, but you can also do this with a regular cork. It's just a little harder to open it back up if you forget something like I usually do. You're also going to need some peat moss, pea gravel, Spanish moss, charcoal, sand, the plastic sheet. I usually just cut mine out of a plastic sandwich bag. I'm going to use some yellow and red spike moss. You can usually use any tropical small plant that will stay really compact. And then I'm also going to use springtails to make the terrarium bioactive, so this will help control mold. And then finally, I'm going to add some distilled water to help create that microclimate that the plants I'm putting in and the springtails will really enjoy. So the first step that I need to get accomplished is to roll up a piece of paper to make a paper funnel. It sounds a little bit easier than it can be, because as you can see here, I immediately got the piece of paper stuck in the wine bottle, which is not going to be helpful. So I'm going to try it again, go a little bit slower, roll it one way, roll it another way, and just keep doing that until I can easily slide it in and out of the wine bottle. And the reason that we're making this is so that we can easily control how we put the different layers into the wine bottle. The smaller the opening on the terrarium, the harder it is to control what's going on inside. I have all of these terrarium tools, and when it comes to a wine bottle, usually the only thing that's really that helpful is the funnel and a stick. So a stick is a very important part of this process as well. So the next step, now that we have completed a paper funnel for the terrarium, is to go ahead and grab a silicone funnel. And I like to use the silicone because you can really kind of massage anything that gets stuck in it through, or easily get it out. Like rocks will get stuck in plastic funnels, and sometimes they can get really lodged in there and be difficult to remove. So we're going to start out with a layer of drainage material, which is our pea gravel, and this is to keep the extra moisture separate from the soil that we're going to make to slow down the rot of the soil. And then now that we have that, we are going to take our piece of plastic bag and trace out a circle that's just a little bit bigger than the actual terrarium itself. And this is so that the sheet of plastic can kind of not only cover the layer of gravel, but go up the sides of the container a little bit as well. I'm going to take a needle here and poke some holes in it. You can just use your stick if you don't have a needle lying around. But I'm then going to cut out around that line that I just traced. And then not only am I going to cut out the excess, I'm going to cut slits into the paper going from the edge towards the center all the way around as well. This will create kind of like some octopus legs that will allow the sheet of plastic to more easily sit inside the round container. Especially with these smaller containers, if you don't do this, it can make it really difficult to get this layer to stay in place. Now I'm going to fold back each of those legs so that they kind of create more of a cup shape and the whole plastic sheet doesn't just roll up on itself. I went with 8 slits. It was a little bit too much. I did have a little bit of the soil fall into the gravel, so I might recommend trying 4 instead, 3 or 4, and seeing how that goes. So next we're going to wrap that plastic octopus around the end of our stick, and we are going to hold that down and then insert that into the paper funnel. And this is so that we control it going into exactly the right position. And you can push it down and then pull the paper funnel up, and the stick will hold the center of that little piece of plastic into the center of the wine bottle. This is why we use the paper funnel. Above all else is to hold that little piece of plastic in the correct space. So we are going to do equal parts of all of the soil materials that we discussed before besides the pea gravel. That's going to stay separate. And I'm going to mix up a little sample here so I can show you what texture we are going for. We're creating this very nice, rich forest floor material to help recreate where this moss would be growing. But you don't actually want to get it wet before you put it into the terrarium, because it's going to make it really hard to get it down that funnel. So I'm going to mix up a second batch that I'm going to keep dry and rehydrate inside of the terrarium, and that will make it a lot easier to keep the inside of the terrarium clean as we are creating this, but it will also keep it from just making a ball of mud that gets stuck in the funnel while you're trying to fill it up. So we're grabbing back out the silicone funnel, making sure our plastic sheet is in exactly the right spot, and then we're just going to start loading it up, and we'll use the stick to make sure that all of the material gets through the paper tube as easily as possible. But you just got to keep loading it up, be patient, do a little bit at a time, and then anytime you get a big chunk, you can just take it out, and some things are just going to be too big to fit through the funnel. And after we get this last little bit in there, we are going to level out a little bit. You can kind of control the level as it comes out with the paper funnel a little bit, and then go back with your stick and level it out. After we get this all completely in there, I'm going to add some distilled water into it and then put it onto the plant shelf so that it can rehydrate. You can see here where it fell through a little bit, but it's not too bad. Not anything that will be really noticeable. That can be the back side of the terrarium. And here we have our water terrarium. You can see how that drainage layer will kind of help keep some separation. As that extra water goes down, it will be able to go and sit in that layer down there. So I'm going to cap it up for now and put it on the shelf. The heat from the lights will help the water get reincorporated back into the soil. And once we have that all rehydrated, I'm going to take this yellow and red spike moss, and we're going to use that to fill the sucker up. Both of these plants have really striking colors. The spike moss is considered a fern ally, so it's one of those plants that's really in this strange gray space between two families of plants. It has a lot of really cool characteristics, like usually keeping its stem where the roots come out a little bit off the ground. So this will be a really cool plant to be able to examine through a terrarium and see the strange way it kind of creeps across the ground. And both of these plants will not really compete with each other, but they'll continue to kind of commingle and create really nice splotches of purple, red, yellow, and white as they continue to grow together and maybe even fill up the top half of the terrarium. So to finish this up, I'm just adding a last few of the plants, and then I'm going to take my stick and use that to really arrange the plants all around. And this is the step where you're going to go ahead and add the springtails after you're done. The easiest way to transfer the springtails in is just to use the funnel and get some in water. They'll just float on top of the water. I actually forgot to film this portion, so I apologize. And I even forgot to put them in for a second, so I had to open it back up and put them in. But don't forget the springtails. At this step, I usually go ahead and add a little bit more water too. As long as that reservoir in the bottom isn't full and touching the soil that we've created, then you should be fine. And you're ready to rock. Well, I had to add my springtails, but then I was ready to rock. So there we go. We have our wine bottle terrarium completed. If you haven't checked out Terrarium YouTube before, I highly recommend Serpa Design. They're who kind of inspired me to start my own channel, and I'll leave a link in the description. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Okay, thank you, bye!